I'm Clay Durganis, and welcome to Blind Guy Woodworking. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to make a checkerboard slash chessboard, and we're going to make it with 2-inch squares. So, first thing we need to do is we need to cut some wood, of course. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut some strips. There's 8 squares across in a chessboard. So, since they're 2-inch squares, 8 times 2 is 16. So we want our wood to be at least 16 inches long, but I always like to have a little extra just for wiggle room. So I'm going to make mine, in fact I'm going to make a lot of extra, because I've learned, and I'll explain later. I'm going to make mine about 22 inches long. And since there's 4 strips of light colors and 4 strips of dark colors, we need 4 strips 22 inches long. Okay. This is silver maple. So we can get about 2 strips out of this board. So, now the other thing I usually do is I make 2 chessboards at a time. It's just easier. So we're going to do 22 and 22. So we need, let's see.
35 and 5.
Get a rough idea how long this thing is.
78 and 3/4 inches. 140 inches.
I think we can get what we need out of this.
1/16 of an inch.
So, now, since I need 22 inches, it's really hard to be going like this and trying to figure out 22 inches.
7 and 1/8 inches.
This is called a rotomatic rule. For those in the club that haven't seen this, this is 6.5 inches long. And it's got little nubs on it. And each one of these nubs is 1/2 inch. Then we got this flange. Okay, what we're going to do, and it's threaded. 16 threads per inch. This is so simple that I feel dumb telling about it. Because 1 turn of this flange is a 1/16 of an inch. So, we can zero this in on whatever we need, and then we can count. And this nut is to tighten it into place so it doesn't move. If you need to make something longer, there's a hole in the end of it, and that's threaded. And they make these extensions. This one is 18 inches long. This is the longest one they make. There's a 6, there's a 12, and an 18-inch extension. And this will thread into here. Like that. So, since we need 22 inches, (18, 19, 20, 21, I'm going to go 21.5. 18, 19, 20, 21.5. I think that'll be plenty extra. Now the reason I like to cut a little extra is when you see how this goes together, it gives me an extra strip. So if I cut wrong or something, I have a backup. So, we got our rotomatic set for 22 inches. Now, I like using my chin to hold this in place because my chin's not going to grab the the trigger and start this thing. And this doesn't have to be perfect, you know, but we'll make it as perfect as possible. Okay, there's one. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this board for a template. It's so much easier. Should be able to get 8 strips for 2 checkerboards out of this silver maple. So, now we need some dark wood. Okay, so we got our boards cut. Now, we've cut our boards to about 21 and a half inches. We've jointed an edge on them, and now we're going to cut this into strips. So, we want 2-inch squares. Got another Rotamac rule here. We're going to first set this to 2 3/8 inches. Now, the best thing I can do is tell you, I'm going to cut the outside edges 1/4 of an inch bigger than the inside edges, the inside strips. And that is so when I make the frame, it'll overlay the board by 1/4 of an inch. So that'll come more clear as we go on.
Okay.
Now, I made this 3/8, not 1/4, because my blade is 1/8 of an inch wide. So I'm going to clip this on here, move my fence over, like so, and tighten this thing up. Okay. And that way, when I include my kerf, I'll have 2 1/4. We need to set this at 2 inches for the rest of the wood, for the rest of the strips. 1, 2, plus 1/8 for the kerf. Okay, we've got our strips cut. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these together. Now, what I've done is I've taken a framing square and I put some strips of wood under it to raise it up off the table, clamp those on. That way I can get a pretty, get this glued up square. So when I cut it on the next step, we're in pretty good shape. We don't waste a lot of material. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these. The trick I found is that if you put the short end of the square down here, then you can put your clamp, first clamp, right down here. Now I like my clamp almost to the edge. That way you don't get any little separations. Tighten that up. What I want to do is I want to take this clamp off, this square off. Okay, here we are back the next day. The boards are glued up. I've taken them out of the clamps. Let's see how square we are on this end. I'll tell you, it looks pretty dang good to me. But I'd like it to be a little bit smoother. A little. With that said, I'm going to go over to the joiner. Okay, since we're going to cut in grade, we're going to put some tape on the edge so it doesn't split off the edge. Okay, now this is when it gets fun, because this is how it works. This is how you make the checkered pattern. What I'm going to do is, since we got 2-inch strips, I'm going to cut 2-inch across this way. Okay? Now, remember I cut my edges a little wider?
Yes.
I'm going to cut those first. So I'm going to need to make those 2 1/4. Okay, so those are our edge pieces. So we're going to set this to 2 inches, 2 1/8. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue up a chessboard. Now what I've done is I put these in order. What I've done is I've taken the boards that were originally all like this and I flipped them over, and that's how you get your checkered pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue this up. I have my assistant here, my daughter. Say hi, daughter.
Hello.
And she is my eyes to make sure that this is glued up straight and I don't miss any gaps or anything, because this has got to be glued up pretty much right on, or else your lines between your squares don't meet. So here we go. Okay, we good? Last.
Come around the other side. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Middle one.
Right there?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the checker pattern, the checkerboard all glued up, and we've straightened out the edge on the jointer. Now we're going to run it through the planer. This is a 20-inch planer. And we're going to take this down so we don't have to sand all day.
Right.
And then we're going to top it off with the sander. Okay, here we are at the sander. This is a 37-inch drum sander. It's a great tool, but it's a little slow. That's why I use the planer first. So what we're going to do is we're going to just sort of top this off with the sander. This gives me a nice flat sanding, and then we'll be on to the next step. So I got this set for this thing to just barely go through here. Okay, so there's our finished checkerboard. Okay, we're back again today. And today we are going to make the frame for the chess/checkerboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a rabbet in the edge of this board. And the rabbet is this place where on a picture, the glass will fit down into it and the picture will set down into the frame.
Okay.
Well, in this case, the rabbet is where the checker/chessboard is going to sit down into. I'm going to nib off this end, get my headphones on. We're going to mark this. This is where my assistant comes in handy, because if I were to do this, I'd have to mark it with a scribe or an awl and line it up, and this just goes faster. So that's why I'm using my assistant, Miss Leah. Okay, go ahead. Right on the corner.
Okay. Okay.
Are we okay?
We're good.
Okay. Other board, please. I don't know if it's a 16th, but we got a little extra on each end for expansion, contraction. But it is in the middle of winter, it's a little dry out here. Let's check this side. This one's pretty good too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the other one just exactly the same.
So you're using the previous board as a guide.
Correct. Okay, fire in the hole. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the router table. Okay, what I'm going to do is I've set this router table up with a chamfered edge, and I want a chamfered edge on the inside of my boards. Now, I'm going to do the edges of these boards before I glue it together. Okay, we're back, and we're going to glue up this frame, so let's do it. So we'll let that dry. Okay, we're back again today. We got the frame glued up. We're going to take it out of the clamp here, and we're going to run it through the drum sander and smooth it all out. Then but we're going to chamfer the edge because we sanded it. We want to chamfer it, re-chamfer it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put a little accent groove on this piece. So I'm going to set the fence. Okay, got the accent groove cut in here. I'll do some light sanding and get the scratches out. Okay, we're back. Last time I was with you, we had just finished up making the frame, and since then I have put 5 coats of wipe-on polyurethane on the chessboard. It's dry, and what we're going to do today is we're going to lightly sand it with some fine sandpaper. I think it's 400 grit, and we're going to wax it, polish it up, and then we're going to mount the board inside the frame. Okay, so I've got my sandpaper here. We're just going to lightly knock down the high spots on this and polish it up a little bit. Just lightly sand it. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to wax up this board. We've sanded it with 400 grit sandpaper. It's nice and smooth, but when you sand it, it gets dull. And we want this to be shiny. So, I'm going to take this tack cloth and just sort of get the dust off. Okay, now we'll get some wax on it. I just use the good old standby Johnson Space Wax. Natural paste wax, carnauba oil, and okay. Now I try not to let it set up too long. It says to let it set up till it's sort of turning pale, I guess. But if I wait too long, it gets really hard to get off. So I just wipe it on, and pretty much right away afterwards I wipe it off. Okay, we'll wax the other side. Okay, so we've got the board all done except one thing. We have to put the board in the frame and make it stay there. Now, you could just glue the board into the frame, but wood expands and contracts, so we have this item, and they're called Spaceballs. And they go in between the frame and the chessboard, and that way they're made out of rubber, and that way when the board expands and contracts, the balls can contract and expand as the board does. So let's see. Now there's other kinds of spacers, but I'm partial to these because they're made right here. They were developed right here where I live in Ames, Iowa. Okay, so we've taken the Spaceballs, we put them in, and it holds the board in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some little clips in here just to make sure that it doesn't pop out. Okay, so I put these little clips on the back of this board, so the board, when you push on it, won't fall out. Got the Spaceballs in here, and hey, put some rubber feet on the bottom. Hey, we're done. Checkmate.
Checkmate.
So that's the video for today. I am Clay Gerganis, and this is Blind Guy Woodworking. You can check us out online at www.blindguywoodworking.com, or you can send an email to me at blindguywoodworking@gmail.com. Thank you.